And as you might guess, based on the way we started the show, we're going to begin with some 49ers and some news around them. They have a receiver dilemma, okay? And what I mean by that is Brandon Aiyuk wants a new deal. He isn't at camp. So as Aiyuk holds out, you wonder if there's a way to pay everyone. Deebo Samuel's deal is up in 2025. Aiyuk added some fuel to the contract negotiation fire. He said this to his former Arizona State teammate, Jaden Daniels.
Flip the cam.
He got me vlogging this.
Bro, what?
What happened, bro?
They said they don't want me back. I swear.
Okay, if you're trying to decipher, that was like a FaceTime call with Jaden Daniels that was recorded. But either way, he's saying they said they didn't want him back. Here's a look at the Niners skill players. Even if something happens with Aiyuk, they still have a lot of great playmakers in Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle. They also added wideouts Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing in the draft this year. But Adam, let's go right to you. What more can you tell us about the contract talks between Brandon Aiyuk and San Francisco?
Well, Laura, unless the 49ers stance has changed suddenly, dramatically, and unexpectedly, that statement would be completely false. Because having spoken to the Niners multiple times, multiple Niners people throughout the course of the offseason, every single one of them said they wanted Brandon Aiyuk back. It was a priority. I think what Brandon Aiyuk is saying here is that their contract offer says to me that they don't want me back because the wide receiver market has exploded recently. We've seen Justin Jefferson come in $35 million a year. We've seen A.J. Brown come in north of $30 million a year. We've seen Jalen Waddle come in $28 million a year. We've seen big guaranteed money. And the Niners and Brandon Aiyuk have been unable to reach a long-term contract agreement. And while they've had these talks, the prices of wide receivers only has risen to the point where it doesn't seem like there's been recent contract talks because talks have been at a stalemate. So when Brandon Aiyuk says they don't want me there, that's just not true. They absolutely do want him there. They just don't want him there at the price that he's looking for right now as the two sides try to reach a common ground on a long-term deal.
Yeah, Shefty's on the mark there in terms of finding that spot for Brandon Aiyuk in this very complicated and robust and rich wide receiver market, Laura. But the other problem that San Francisco 49ers are facing right now is a great problem to have. You've got all this world-class talent. Yeah. As of right now, the 49ers have 7 players who are making at least $15 million per season. That's tied for the most of any team in the entire NFL. When you're really good, you got to make difficult business decisions. And oh, by the way, next year, assuming Brock Purdy plays like he has so far, he's going to be making more than $55 million per season. At some point, these difficult choices arise for the teams at the very top of the heap of the NFL. I don't love to always sit here and compare teams to the Kansas City Chiefs, but we're just a couple of off seasons removed from them trading away Tyreek Hill, a first-team All-Pro wide receiver. So for San Francisco, it's not simply Brandon Aiyuk. It's the idea that every dollar they pay to one player is one less dollar to pay to somebody else. It's a puzzle they're currently navigating.
Well, and as we backtrack just a little bit back to the NFL draft, it was a signal of sorts that the 49ers drafted Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. And when you think about that, it's just because they're adding wide receiver talent at a pretty high spot, and that makes them think that maybe they're going to miss out on somebody else. So, Herm, you have coached both Brandon Aiyuk and Ricky Pearsall. You're an expert in these guys, okay? What would you say the difference is between those two players?
Well, Brandon is a very explosive receiver down the field. When you look at his yards per catch, about 18. He led the team in receptions as well as yards after catch. But Ricky Pearsall is a guy that really you can move around. He's like a Cooper Kupp. You can move him in the slot. Excellent blocker. And if you know you play for Coach Shanahan, he wants his wide receivers to block. So, you know, Ricky has all the tools. He's not as explosive as Brandon, but he's a really good football player, can make plays and move him around. He's like a chess piece. You can move him inside, outside, and it's a hard decision for the 49ers. And both parties have said it. You know, they want Brandon Aiyuk back. There's no doubt about that. He's a part of this offense, but how do you pay all these guys? And you had the list, you had the screen of all the fantastic players the 49ers have. That's the problem. When you draft right, you're going to have some good players that you can't keep.
Yeah, it's like Field said, it's a good problem to have. I think something that I did point out a couple minutes ago that is worth remembering is Deebo Samuel signed that extension in 2022 that is up in 2025. So that could maybe factor in the way they handle this.